Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Rory McGloin, and in episode 29 of Timely Topics, I'm joined by Lee Elliott, a coach, educator, and entrepreneur whose work sits at the intersection of sport and performance. Lee is entering his fourth season as the men's goalkeeper coach at Connecticut College, serves as director of coaching at Colchester Soccer Club, and is the owner of Sports Performance Training. Lee holds a BSc in football coaching, a UEFA B coaching license, and brings a wealth of playing experience from his semi-professional clubs in England, including trials with Fulham and Chelsea. In this interview, we'll dig into Lee's coaching philosophy, the habits and systems he builds for high-performance teams, and lessons he's learned from winning State Cup championships along the way. We also discuss how those lessons translate into the business world, from team leadership to talent development and running a training business. So whether you're a coach, manager, entrepreneur, or just a soccer enthusiast, today's conversation is full of practical insights you can apply to building better teams and stronger organizations. Let's go. All right, everybody, really excited to welcome Lee Elliott to the studio today to talk all things coaching and soccer. And we might even get into a bit of Ireland-England banter if we get that far. Lee, thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me, Rory.
This is going to be really fun. So you're a soccer coach today. That's really probably how you identify. But what I'd love for the listeners to get a chance to think and hear a little bit about is you grew up playing soccer. You grew up over in England. You want to tell us a little bit about your story and kind of where you came from before you got over here to the States?
Yeah, I started off quite late, actually, like 11, 12 years old. I was a striker, prolific goal scorer. Of course. And our goalkeeper left, and I was quite tall. And the gaffer went, hey, you should try it and go. All right. And that's kind of where I grew and loved the game. Yeah. Penalty shots, love them. And but yeah, my nan and grandma were my key pushers. My mum was also really supportive, but my nan was a Chelsea season ticket holder.
Oh, cool.
So although my dad hates it, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I would spend many nights up at the Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
And that's where I really grew to love the game. And Jose Mourinho was head coach then.
Yeah.
And I sat 4 seats away from him. Cool. And it was really great to watch him.
That's interesting. We often talk a lot about the importance of like role models and mentors along the way. So let's just kind of stay there for a second. Obviously, like soccer's huge in England, right? It is part of the fabric. It is the game of England and everything like that. When did you realize that you wanted, just to start from this perspective of like, when did it become something that you wanted to pursue? Was it skill that drove you? Was it passion? Sometimes it's the parents. Like, what was the kind of biggest catalyst to say, I'm going to really put a ton of effort into this?
I think it was a combination of all three there.
Okay.
A lot of people, my coaches told me that I was very talented.
Sure.
And I didn't really believe myself. I was like, this is fun.
Yep.
And obviously my love for the game, I just would watch soccer every moment.
Yep.
And then obviously my family input of my nan giving me the chance to go and watch one of the best teams at the time there, week in, week out, and we would travel around the country. I mean, we actually went up to Anfield. I'll never forget, Champions League game, Luis Garcia, ghost goal. I was sat in the Chelsea end. And it killed me to be silent, but I had to be because Liverpool fans are a bit harsh.
Yeah.
But all three of those components, and it was, and that's kind of where I am now, is that those really, really installed my values and kind of the love for the game.
And just before we move on and we talk about you coming to the States and we're kind of getting into the business side of things, but just for the listeners, like you ended up going on and having a pretty good go at it and played at a high level and had some opportunities. What did you learn in that part of the journey that, now maybe still sticks with you today in terms of like playing at a high level in England's no joke? What did you take away? Like what stuck with you that's still with you today from that perspective?
So I was very fortunate. I also pushed myself a lot. I was playing at one point like 3-4 games a week, which isn't good for the body. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, I was playing reserve football whilst I was also playing youth team football, picked up an injury, and a young kid came along. He was like 16 years old. I did my recovery, did all that, and got into the dressing room, and the coach didn't have my name on the board. Mm. And I'll never forget to this day, that was when I stopped playing. I at that point in my life didn't have what I have now is the calm, cool, collect temperament. Yeah. And I just said, all right, I'm out. Yeah. Done. Put my suit on, left. And my best mate's dad, who was the assistant coach, followed me out. He goes, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I said, I'm done. I don't need this anymore. And it was actually about 6 months after that when I headed to the States.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you. And it's cool. It's interesting you say that because one of the things, having had a chance to coach alongside you and be out in the field, you are calm, poised, chill, under control. It's actually one of the things I enjoy about your company when we're out there doing bits and pieces together. Let's talk about this journey to the States, and more specifically, what we want to talk about. Season 3 is all about coaches, whether it's business coaches or sports coaches. We think there's a lot of line there. When did you realize that you wanted to get into coaching? What was the catalyst for that?
So when I realized I couldn't make it to that next level, like I remember very clearly that I couldn't make it as a pro. I said, all right, from day one, if I can't do it, I want to help someone else achieve their dream. And I want to be able to help someone go and say, all right, no, I can actually now play a good level. That was kind of the real catalyst.
Yeah, and so let's dive into this and let's change gears here now. So you've been coaching now for how long? How many years have you kind of been at it professionally?
Well over 12.
Okay, so we've got a decade plus
Probably
experience.
like 14, 15 years.
Right. So when you started to where you are today, for a moment of reflection, for all of our coaches that are listening, for people who are coachees, I think there's always like a core value or philosophy, right? You've ever gotten with a coach, they always say like, this is the thing that's most important. This is what drives my team. This is how we're going to operate. What do you think your core teaching or coaching philosophy would be? What do you tell your players? What's at the core of what you bring?
It's very much accountability. Like own it. Like I understand that in every session we're not going to be perfect and we're not going to be great, but like let's not make that same mistake twice. I really struggle when I give you a coaching point and we execute it, and then you're going back to another way. It's like, hey, no, coach, I didn't. Hey, I don't understand it. Or it's like, we'll go through a 10-minute demo, and then no one puts a hand up. Like, we all set? Are we good?
Yeah.
Yep. Coach, yep. And we get in, the session breaks down within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, no, coach, I don't understand it. Like, listen, I can't understand your accent. You're talking too fast. It's just, I get it all. We understand. But yeah, no, accountability is huge for me.
Yeah, and we love to talk about, for listeners of the show or for people who are tuning in for the first time, one of the things when we talk about coaching businesses and what we do here at the center is work with entrepreneurs. And one of the things that's so critical is you give them feedback. We a lot of times dive into the space of how do you give feedback? When do you give feedback? How do people receive feedback? Being a coach really finds you giving tremendous amounts of feedback to people that both want it and sometimes don't want it. One of the things that I'd love to get in with you here, talk a little bit about, is like, how have you developed your communication coaching style to try to be able to give feedback at the right time, at the right place, in a way that they can adopt it? Because it can be frustrating when you're coaching, whether it's businesses or players, and you're saying, you're doing this thing. And as you said, they go, no, I'm not. And you're thinking, I'm watching it happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? How have you evolved to try to improve upon your game when it comes to giving feedback?
So I think we're lucky now. These days we have video feedback.
Nice.
And we'll get in at the college level, at least we'll get in the film room, and we can sit down and stand there. We're like, hey Tommy, how do you think you did? No, coach, I completed a high percentage of my passes, and we'll break it down. It's like, actually, Tommy, look at this. Could we have done this differently? Could we have done that differently? And I think over the last probably 5 years, it's been different, right? In terms of feedback, I was very much I used to be louder, more right there, and then and since I've done my degree and kind of learned different coaching models and how players actually respond differently. Some of them are visual learners. Some of them need that instant feedback, which is fine. But you have to know your team. You have to know your audience. You have to know your players, and again, some of them don't respond to that immediate feedback. They need time to process it, and some of them need a whiteboard and here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to do it.
I love the fact that you're talking about learning styles. When we think about the process of communication, I'm always trying to talk to my coachees and say, people learn in different ways. We can't just show up and do it the way that we're good at, because you're going to eliminate about 75% of your audience. So just because you're good face-to-face doesn't mean that the receiver is good face-to-face. And so you have to be willing to do that. And I think coaching has evolved both from technology standpoint. We've also seen huge shifts in the norms and expectations around how we communicate. So if you think back to your playing days, I know I think back to my early playing days. I spent a lot of time in Ireland in the summers and playing Gaelic football, and the norm was shouting and roaring on the sidelines. That was supposedly, I was taught that was a part of the game. Then now you look at the evolution and you're going, no, there's actually different ways that you connect with people. What's something that, here's a kind of a two-part question. What's something from your playing days that your coaches maybe did, or something that you took with you that to this day you love? And then maybe what's something that you've tried pretty hard to leave behind?
So in my earlier days, when I was looking at transferring clubs, I'll never forget the coach came to my house and sat down and said, we don't want you to go. Like, we really want you on our team. We understand that you've got these opportunities, but just like, we want you to stay in. Just having that personal touch, that like, I've invested time in you, and you respect my family enough that you're actually going to drive to my house, which was probably half an hour away, come down and have that conversation of like, all right, we've had the conversation. We understand that you want to do this. What can we do for you to keep you?
Yeah.
And like, and I believe that I've taken that into. It's taken me a couple of years, obviously, throughout the last 10 years to get to a more of that level. But now I feel like I dive into that level with my players, and I really try and understand, like, oh, how was your day? And when I get to say, oh, school's good today? How are we doing? And oh, coach, it was rough. Okay, so at that point, straight off the bat, we know that this is going to be a tough session. Or you're going to leave it at the door, and we're going to have a great session.
Yeah.
But it's having that personal touch with, and some of these kids are 9, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And they're going through a lot, especially at school, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I've seen you do it. I've seen you do it firsthand, and it's great because you actually genuinely are listening to the players, and if they're in a great mood and they're having fun, you roll with it, and if they're not, then we roll with it. And it actually takes a bit of courage as a coach, because we all show up with 25 different plans and we've got our bag of cones, and you're going, nope, none of this is going to work, and you have to be nimble. But to go back to the question, what's something, because one of the things in my coaching experience, I've seen so much change maybe over the last like 25 years in learning styles, the way that we receive feedback, sensitivities to feedback. What's something that you've intentionally left behind and said, look, that was maybe me before, that was how we used to coach, and I'm not going back there?
I think the loud, boisterous, aggressive, no, not aggressiveness as such, but that loud, all right, this is how we're going to do it. This is the only way we're going to do it, and we're not changing from it.
Yeah.
Here's the course. Here's a session plan, for instance. Here's a session plan today. All right, we're doing this. And I would kind of be stubborn. I'm a very stubborn guy. And it would be like, we're doing this session today, and that is it. But now it's more of no, you need to be flexible. Yeah. You have to be flexible. You have to not even just hear, but you have to hear what they're telling you. And you can see it not working. You can see it breaking down. And 5, 6 years ago, I would have just stuck with it. Like, there's no success rate here. We're going to keep doing it until we get it. And that will take an hour and a half, and it's going to take an hour and a half. Now it's, obviously, now we're many years down the road, it's, well, in the back of my head, here's a topic, but I also have 7 different ways of getting that topic out of the players and out of the team. And so, left that loud boisterousness and stubbornness.
Yes. And it's difficult to do, and we see some coaches that are still hanging on to it, and you're kind of looking across the pitch or the court and going, it's just not going to get the job done because today's players are not responding to it. I know personally I had my own experiences the same way, started off early on and thinking this was how it was going to be, and you learned but you had to listen to your players, and I think great coaches have to have a willingness, talk about giving feedback. You have to step up and be willing to receive feedback. I think it's really hard for coaches sometimes at the end of a season to be able to say, how did I do? We've spent 99% of the time talking about what you did right, to be able to sit down and to get feedback. Are you open to receiving feedback from your players or from the people you work with? And is that something you've learned to evolve over time?
For the last 3 years at the club level, we've gone to a feedback form. And I strongly believe in it. I mean, you need feedback to know what you're doing right, and you're going to be doing stuff wrong.
Yep. And
it's no one's perfect. There isn't a perfect person in the world. Even the top level coaches, they're still making mistakes.
Right.
So you just have to be able to receive that feedback, and whether that's Timmy saying, "Hey, coach, I didn't quite understand this today. Can we do it in a different way?"
Yeah.
Or again, at the end of the season, when you've got 100 families writing in, answering a survey, and just because some of us are friends, I still need that feedback.
Yeah.
Because the product might have been good, but I want the product to be better next year or better next time.
You just said product, perfect transition to the business side of things. So at the center, we coach entrepreneurs and feedback in the early stages in terms of what we talk about as customer discovery. We're talking about player discovery right now. I love the parallels between sport and business, because if you're not listening to your customers, if you're not listening to your players, you're not going to have a good product at the end of the day. I think one of the things that's so funny is that I think that we used to exist in a place that sport wasn't a product. Like, sport was sport. Sport was a game, and it really has become a product. And in fact, for many, including yourself, it is a service and a way of life. Let's talk about this for a second. You're the founder of Sports Performance Training, and you do all sorts of clinics and one-on-one. When did you decide or elect, and tell me a little bit about the process of saying, I can work for teams, I can work for clubs, I'm going to work for myself. Where did that come from? What was the evolution of that? What's that been like?
So my first year in America, I worked for a company called UK National Soccer. I was out in California, San Francisco area, and back then they brought over probably well over 300 soccer coaches from all over areas of Europe, and that was kind of my first foot in the water moment of, well, I can actually do this for a living. I can coach soccer and live, and that was like a huge dream.
Cool. Yeah.
That was the huge dream. So I spent the year there, and then the visa process was getting a bit tangled up, so that was tough. And then I ended up on the East Coast and went all the way up down the East Coast, and that was where I met my wife.
Yep.
And it was at that point I was like, okay, so if they're bringing coaches over from the UK, which is great, which is awesome, why can't I actually do a service but use local coaches? Because we were in this environment where coaches would come over for 9 months, but they'd work in a club for 3 months, go for the summer, work 3 months, but then the next year you might not get the same coach, which is tough because you build that relationships with the players, and they're like, oh, where's Coach Tom gone? We don't know if he's going to be back. We don't know what he's doing. So it was at that moment I said, okay, well, if I know enough good people, I know enough coaches that live locally, I can set up a company and we can give that same service, but actually we can give a better service because now I am here year round. I can give you year round service, and we have American-based coaches, which also female and male, which was difficult when they were coming over from the UK to get female coaches. It was difficult, which was one spot that I found was as a need for female coaches, because females respond sometimes way better to female coaches.
Yeah, and they're even now, of course, showing up on the sidelines of men's teams as well, which is really cool. You just said something related to me that when I think about, we're working in the Gaelic football and the Irish football space, I think one of the things I really admire is saying we could continue to bring folks over, or we can continue to just build it ourselves. Because now if you build it yourself, you've got an opportunity to sustain generational growth. And, there's so much conversation. We're going to go back to business in a second. Soccer has become big business in America. But one of the things is like we feel like we haven't even kind of come close to reaching our potential. I think one of the reasons is because we haven't invested necessary grassroots level. And until we do that, like any business, like any organization, you're not going to reach full potential. Going down the business side of things for a second, I think it's really cool that you're thinking about having this novelty niche approach where we're not going to continue to bring people over. And it would have been easy for you to look that way and say, this is how I came, so I'm going to do that for everybody else. Instead, you kind of were able to assimilate to the culture and say, hey, let me be a part of this. Let me build new friendships and relationships. What are some of the things that you enjoy from the entrepreneurship standpoint the most? Like, what do you enjoy having the ability to kind of control your own destiny, to make those decisions, and to be the head coach of your business?
The flexibility. That's great. Like, we can do one-on-one sessions. And again, when you're working for a big corporate company there's very defined rules, right? You have to do this. By this date, you have to do this, and by this time, you have to do that, and you have to be here at this time. And it's having your own business. The flexibility is amazing, but also I now get to choose my work colleagues. I get to say, "Hey, Ashley, I want you to be a part of my business." Hey, Coach Skip, you're a great coach. You're doing wonderful things at the high school. Come, I want you to come and coach me.
Right.
And I kind of look at it as a family. I have 6-7 coaches. We're not huge by any amount, but the coach that I have, that I call them daily. We touch in, we touch base, and that's how you don't lose people. Like when you have these big corporate companies, unfortunately, it gets watered down, and then it's like, oh well, Timmy at the bottom here, doesn't know who John at the top is, and no, I want anyone to call me at any time, any day. I've got a problem. Okay, let's talk it out. Let's figure it out. Yeah,
there's huge value there for listeners. I think we're living in an economy where people might be thinking about starting their own business. Coaching can be a way to continue your passion for sports. We have a need for coaches. We also have a need for referees, for people that are out there listening. But one of the things that I want to come back to is that you're totally comfortable as an entrepreneur saying the thing that brings me joy is not trying to grow this thing into oblivion. It's actually just getting a few people around me whose company I enjoy. We make a few dollars, but we're bringing a service to the community. And I just want to share that because I think sometimes, when we look at our startups, when we look at the things that we work at, I often say to them, what's your goal? Right? If the goal is simply to drive revenue and to grow and scale, then that has to be your focus. But if you're providing purpose back to yourself or the people, that can be what the business does. And I think that's just something I wanted to highlight. When you think about what you've learned on the pitch, dealing with players, dealing with referees, dealing with other coaches, What do you bring now to the standpoint of your clients? Because it's different, right? But there's probably things that maybe you've done right or wrong during a game that you might think about how you deal with your clients and the people that you work with. Any tips that you've taken away from that you'd share with other business owners?
So it's kind of just listening to the client, right? And it's that, bringing to a field point, it's like, well, the referee they make bad decisions, but they're humans. Whereas, like, and again, when your client comes to you and says, "Oh, I want to do this and I want to do that," and it's okay, I'm hearing you. I want to get my player to be a professional player. Okay, how do we get there? So I'm going to listen. I know what you want on the big scale of things, but now we've got to break that down into, okay, well, we need better footwork, we need better handling as a goalkeeper, and it's that listening part. I strongly believe that you need to be able to, again, come back to that feedback. It's listening, giving them the answers that they want, and trying to get them to where they want to get to, but it's difficult if you're loud, brash. You might be like, no, we're going to do it this way. Well, if you're going to watch the session, and hey, coach, I feel like you need us to work a bit more on passing. Okay, in the next one-on-one session, we can do a bit more passing.
Yeah.
So it's that feedback element and that part of it.
Yeah, and I think it's actually one of the things that's quite funny for our listeners that actually spend any time near or around sports. There are moments where shouting and roaring and getting into it and the passion is really good. It's probably one of the few spaces that doesn't directly translate to some of the professional space, although it'd be cool if it did once in a while. Yes. It'd make the office place a bit more interesting, right? If you could really kind of cheer on your favorite colleagues or give out to the referees at work. But for those that don't coach, right, for those that maybe aren't from a sports space, what would be something that you'd want them to know about coaching? And I'm going to ask you the question in this way. I'm going to say to you, do you think coaches are important, right? Do you think coaches add value to the world? Do you think that there is really, truly value to the business and the service that you provide? And I assume you say yes, but I'm interested in particular, like, why do you think coaches matter?
I hugely believe that coaches are important at all levels, whether it's in the workspace or on a sports field. You're helping people learn. A coach is someone that I look at and go, okay, they're coaching me through something. And then if you have a bad day, can you pick up the phone and, hey, Tom, how's your day going? But you kind of go into that, and that's a coaching moment. Like if I'm calling someone, I might be checking on them, but there might be a problem that's happening that I need help through, and they're going to coach me through that moment. And I've been lucky to have, in my short time here in America, but a huge amount of coaches that have been hugely impactful on me, and I've met them through coaching. Yeah. But now they become lifelong friends.
Yeah. You know what's actually interesting in your answer there is we had an episode previous to this on self-awareness, and we talked about where do you get feedback from. I think the one thing that stands out to me for coaches is like it seems to create a safe space. It's an explicit relationship in which you can say, I'm open to feedback. And we can't just walk around the streets necessarily and just say to people, hey, give me feedback. Not everybody's equipped or professional enough to do that. But to have coaches around you, to have coaches that you admire, that you look up to, and also to pay it back to the people in your life. Like coaches can really help us understand ourselves. And that's probably part of the journey. Okay, this part of the journey brings us to our final segment of the episode, which is our rapid fire question. So I've got 3 questions for you, Coach Lee, and let us know what you think. All right, let's kick off with the first one. So as a coach, what's something that you used to care about a lot in the past, right? So like, and we're competitive people, so there's things that we were pretty competitive about. What's something you used to really care a lot about that as you've learned and grown and had these experience maybe isn't as important to you anymore? What changed? You got something?
Winning. I'm a very competitive person. I used to just care about the wins and the losses. Now I've grown and I've developed. It's all right. My win now is, can I make this player better over the course of the next 12 weeks? Or if you give me a team, the best player is the best player, the bottom player, I want to bring that bottom player to the middle of the pack. Yeah. So when they go and try out next time, they're not at the bottom. So those are my wins now. It used to be wins and losses, goals scored, goals against. No, winning now is based on, can I make you better?
Yeah, I love that. Great. All right, second rapid fire question. As a coach, what's more important in your opinion, having a player that's motivated or one that's disciplined?
Discipline, because I can coach the motivation into a player.
Interesting.
Whereas if I have a highly motivated player, but they're disrupting my entire session all the time, I can't deal with it. I can discipline you, but what great good is that for the team? Whereas if you are disciplined and you're a rule follower, I can motivate. Because can motivate anyone to do anything.
Fantastic. And I think what I like about that answer is like you're self-aware to know yourself as to what your strengths are. So you say, give me that type of player. And the last one, this is fun. As a coach, do you feel like you get more joy out of the experience of coaching the ideal player, right? The really coachable players? Or do you get a little bit more in the long run out of coaching a player that's more challenging?
More challenging. I don't want a perfect player to come to me, because only that makes my job harder. if you come to me as a perfect player, you're already almost at your ceiling. Whereas if you come to me and you're not great, I now have to go to work and I have to work out, okay, how can we get you there? What do I need to tweak in my sessions? And I'm challenging myself.
Yeah, I love it. It's also good for business.
That's also true.
That's good. Lee, a pleasure to have you on. Really excited for everybody to check this episode out, and good luck next season.
Thanks so much.